Hello everyone and welcome to another video from the team here at BlenderTech.com. Don't forget to like the video and to subscribe for more Blender, Unity 3D, and programming videos. The team tries to add at least one quality video a day. And lastly, don't forget to remember, create your way. So I've got a proper microphone stand here. Hopefully that gets rid of the rattling noises from my keyboard that was happening before. The base for my mic stand isn't perfectly flat, so I might have to go out and sand that down a bit, but hopefully it's fixed. So anyways, today I'm going to be looking at the idea in the game development world called modular level design. You may have heard this before, you may know what it means, you may not, but I want to get into it just a little bit. So the modular level design, it can be used for rendering scenes in Blender or animations too, but it has more to do with video game development, hence the level design portion. So when you create your first high quality video game, it will be most likely a simple interior based game, like probably a first person shooter in something like a spaceship, a secret laboratory, an office building, or something similar, because that's usually the easiest way to go about things and it has the best outcome. So you may have played games before, or I'm sure you've played games before you got into 3D modeling and game design, and you thought that the levels were designed by the game designers and they created the whole building and whatever from scratch, and it was one big model, and they modeled everything just one big object basically before you knew what models and meshes and etc. was. This is the very opposite from the truth. What most professionals and indie and personal game developers follow is called the modular level design theory. I'd say a majority actually. And in short, we call this the modular method. What this means is your levels are made up of building blocks, just like Lego pieces. And you take these building blocks and you piece them together one at a time, and they're made ahead of time so that the pieces will fit together into another piece, so they're seamless, they're basically tileable, and so this allows you to create nearly any level design you want, from a very small series of building blocks, or again, modules for short. Instead of building blocks, think of it like modules. So this way you don't have to create new models over and over and over again for each part of the level. You simply place your pre-made ones down in a grid-like fashion to create the level in whatever of a design you want, and then later you go and add your lighting and a few extra props here and there to give it some uniqueness and such. So anyways, I'm going to explain about how you go doing this as simply as possible. So this video is going to be more of a theory tutorial than an actual hands-on lesson. I just wanted to hand this knowledge down to you. Anyway, so yeah, I have Unity open here, as well as I have Blender open. We'll be using both to illustrate these principles. So to start, in Unity, I've imported the sample assets beta package. That's this one right. I'm downloading videos, so my connection's super slow. That's this one right here. So it's available for free from Unity, and it has some models that kind of illustrate this idea, as I've picked out right here in my Project Explorer window. So because I'm not going to make a bunch of individual modules to show you this idea, because that would take hours, I'm going to be showing you using these to start with, and then we're going to go into Blender to show you how you would make these kind of things and the rules that you kind of have to follow and the basic principles behind the modular method. So yeah, under the prototyping folder, under prefabs or models, whatever, but I like prefabs because they have some colors and such. So as you can see, they have blocks, they have flat blocks, they have a house, they have these little joints with bevels, and they have these platforms, they have some stairs, and they have walls. But as you can see, they all have sizes: 4x4x4, 2x2x2, and 8x1x8. So what this means is this is kind of how the modular grid design comes into play. This is why I told you to think of it like Legos. So for example, an 8 by 8 by 1 wall would fit along an 8 by 1 by 8 floor. So you could make a room out of those. And at the same time, for example, say a 4 by 6 by 1 mid joint here plus another 4 just inner joints would make up a whole wall along the floor. So yeah, basically what you do is you'd say take this 4 by 1 by 4 floor and just drag it into your Unity window somewhere. And I'm not going to position them super precisely, but you will get the general idea here. So that would be like my floor, and then for my walls I would want to use how big is this wall? Okay, way too big. Let's just use the cubes then. So yeah, your walls would say be made out of these blocks here that are 4 by 4, since our floor is 4 by 4. So yeah, your blocks would go in like this. And so yeah, it's just like building with Legos. You would just line it up in a grid-like fashion. So now, as you can see, again, everything's not exactly lined up. I'm trying to do this somewhat quickly because this part's kind of the boring part. But yeah, as you can see, this is how you would go about things. You would take your pre-made things, your pre-made models, and you would make sure that they all follow a size reference, and then you just put them together like building blocks, like Lego. And you design your levels that way, and you reuse them over and over and over. And so if I need something longer, I would maybe have one of these cubes that's 4 by 8, so it's twice as long, and maybe that would be like my corridor one, whereas these ones are just my walls, for example. So that just gives you an idea of the differences that you would have in your objects. So some would be like small like this, some would be longer, but they all follow the basic idea that they fit into each other. So they don't have any decimal numbers. One model isn't 4.38 units long. They're all even numbers so that they will fit together perfectly. So yeah, this is just a basic simple illustration of how this kind of modular level design works. So yeah, you would continue going kind of like ISO instead of perspective. You would just continue basically building your level up that way. And then let's say maybe we wanted a corner here. So as you can see, instead of creating this whole big model, all I gotta do is just use these. I'm using 2 prefabs, essentially 2 models, and I'm creating this whole, well, okay, oh yeah, they're really off, but you can tell from the top view that it's like a hallway with a corner using only 2 models. And obviously this can get a lot more creative and unique as you go on, but this is the very basic building blocks behind the modular method. So if we go into Blender, I just wanted to kind of show you some rules. So let's just create our basic cube. So if you wanted to follow the modular method, you want a cube. And this cube is going to serve a function. So the first thing you're going to do before I explain what this cube is going to be, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move it up to the top of the grid floor. So we're going to grab it along the z-axis. How much? I think just 1 unit. Yeah, just 1 unit. And then we need the origin right to the bottom too, so that when we import it into Blender, it goes right into the floor instead of to this midpoint here. So we're going to move the cursor to the center. So always start your models right in the center so that you can set the origin right in the center. And then I'm just going to hit Control-Alt-Shift-C, and then I'm going to set origin to 3D cursor. So now my origin is right in the middle, and it's on the grid floor. If you can't remember Control-Alt-Shift-C, it's also in the T toolbar. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's in there somewhere. I have a lot of add-ons, so... But yeah, it's in there somewhere. So yeah, let me turn on screencast keys actually. So yeah, when you need to change the origin, you go Control Alt Shift C, and that just sets, you can set your origin wherever you want. But yeah, so for your first cube, and for all of your modular blocks, you want your origin to be in the center on the bottom of the grid floor. And you want everything to be in a cubular nature, like I said, so that they fit together. But what this first cube does is it's kind of a wireframe idea. So let's say I'm building an office level. So I want this box to be able to fit my character. Let's say I'm making a first person shooter. I want this to be able to fit my character. So maybe I don't want a box, because obviously most like floors, if you look in your room, the walls are a lot taller than you are. So I would probably take this box in edit mode, and I would take the top face and I would move it up, say 0.5 units. Or no, let's say I would move it up 1 unit. So now it's 2 units high, and then it's 1 unit in all the other directions. So this would kind of, what this does is it's kind of like a domain. You're going to build all your models off of this. So all of your prefabs are going to be built within this space. None are going to be bigger, otherwise they won't line up. And they can be smaller, but they have to be built within this domain. How can I explain this better? Let me think about it for a sec. Okay, so I'm going to quote a few lines from a great book I've picked up on using Unity and Blender together. So basically what this cube is called your base unit. So yeah, being your base unit, let me just quote some lines here. So the cube that we've created here, the cube created so far represents the smallest block or module in the environment set, hence my calling it a base tile. There's no right or wrong size for the base tile, as sizing depends a lot on your game and workflow preferences. However, I typically size the cube relative to the player character in Unity, and I went over that kind of. So for first person and RPG games, I usually import and export my cube back and forth between Blender and Unity, sizing it against a first person controller in a Unity scene until I get a base tile that entirely encompasses the player character while leaving some margin of space. So essentially what is being said is this is kind of what your tiles are going to be sized as, and it's going to be able to fit your character in with a little bit of margin of space so that they can, move around. We made it a little bit taller so that, say, a player character would be able to walk through without, hitting the top of it. They'll be able to walk through it because we'd be making an interior scene. Let me continue on here just to extend on this a little bit, because I think this is very good information. So extending from the base tile. Establishing the base tile is perhaps the most critical and important step in building modular environments. The base tile represents your raw unit of measure against which all other modules are sized. So what he's saying is this base tile is basically a reference against what all your other models are going to be. So here are some general do's and don'ts that pertain to base tiles once you've positioned and sized it in a Blender scene. So we've positioned and sized it. We've sized it so it's slightly taller so a character can fit, and we've also positioned it so it's positioned right at the center, and the origin is set at the bottom right at the center. So anyway, here's the do's and don'ts. Keep a backup copy. Never model, edit, or delete your original base tile. Always keep a backup copy of it in the scene. It will come in handy for sizing and measuring other modules you make in the environment set. After you establish your base tile, make a duplicate of it and keep the original on a separate independent layer. So basically he's saying you can go back and use it as a reference to make sure you're not making your modules too big to the point where they won't tile, for example. Next up, use it as a reference. Don't model with your base tile. So don't use your base tile and then start modeling your interior scenes off it. Just use it as a reference and create your models that fit within your base tile. So, don't model with your base tile. Also, don't tweak it or change its vertices. Its purpose is to be a reference or guide for creating modular pieces for the environment set. The base tile represents the total volume and limits for the smallest module possible. Use the base tile as a wireframe guide when modeling your pieces. So as you can see, I'm in a wireframe mode right now. So yeah, all my pieces are going to fit to this cube size, and they are not going to exceed the volume of it. And lastly, use your base tile to size larger pieces. So just because you've established a base tile as a reference for making environment pieces, it doesn't mean all pieces must be the same size as the base. The base tile may represent, for example, only the volume of a doorway section, including the door, the floor, and the ceiling. So what he's saying here is, for example, this may be your smallest piece, and it would have a doorway, a floor, and a ceiling, as well as your basic wall on the back. So if you need to make larger pieces, such as longer corridor sections or hallways, don't be afraid to do so. When making larger pieces, however, ensure that their size is a multiple of the base tile in every dimension, so 2x, 3x, 4x, etc. Don't resort to fractional values, and don't choose round numbers that aren't equally divisible by the base tile dimensions. This ensures that all tiles, both the base tile and any larger tiles you might make, can fit and stack inside a single, neat coordinate space of modular blocks. If you make your modules at any and every size as you see fit, just randomly, then tiling won't work. If you want your pieces to be truly modular, then they'll need to tile. So, let me explain this in Blender now for you. So let's just make a really quick little interior scene or whatever, a module, a block that you would use to build your level. And I'm, like I said, as instructed, I'm going to do it within the volume, the bounds of our base tile. So I'm going to actually call this base tile. Whoops, I'm in caps. Base tile.ref for reference. So I'm going to create a new cube in object mode. And it's moved way off. So this is where snapping is going to come in very handy, because we need it to line up. So I'm just going to snap it so that it sits right where the cube is. I'm going to turn on solid shading actually, and I am going to just simply delete the faces only to my base tile. That way it still acts as a wireframe. So in edit mode, I'm just going to go to face select. I'm just going to delete these faces. Only the faces. So we still have our wireframe, but we can still view our module in its full shaded glory. So there, we now have our wireframe guide essentially from our base tile. And for our cube, which is going to be, we'll call it module 1. As you can see, it's now shaded, but it still fits within the space. So what I might do is I might take this face and bring it all the way down, and that might be my floor, for example. And then I might add in a loop cut over there, and then take that face and extend it all the, whoa, okay, that's not why I wanted to extrude, I mean, all the way up. So again, I'm using snapping, vertex snapping, so I'm holding down control so that it goes all the way to the top of my base tile. As you can see, that's a little bit thick, so maybe we'll bring this back. And then let's say maybe on the wall there was some sort of, I don't know, some sort of box, a health box, an ammo box, something like that. So let's say we had a box on the wall. So something like that. So it's a very basic form. It's a very basic idea, but it kind of shows you the idea. So I would use this. I would get rid of my base tile. That I'm just using as a reference, and I would save it as a separate file. I'd save backups of it so that I never lose it. And so I would call this something like, this would be like just a basic hallway piece. So for example, what I could do is when I import this into Unity, I could just simply create two of them and rotate them along the Z 180 degrees. And then I can put the two of them together, and I would have basically kind of a little, like something that a player can walk through. And what he was talking about in terms of making bigger pieces, bigger than your base tile. So my base tile is 1 unit long and 1 unit wide and 2 units tall. So what he's saying is if you wanted to make something bigger, go ahead, but make sure it's even multiples. So I would take my module 1, my first module, I can edit it, and if we wanted to make it longer, we can. So we take this face, but we don't want to make it a fraction size. Oh, why is it pulling weirdly? Maybe I'll extrude again. Oh, it's because I've got that weird shape there. So what he's saying is that basically you can go out, you can make it as big as you want, but make sure it's an equal or an equal size. So I would make it 2 times bigger if I wanted a scene or like a piece that big. And if I wanted one even longer, I might make it, instead of 2 times, I would maybe make it 4 times. So that it all fits together, right? And since this is only 1 by 1, we can also, we can go 3 times. So we can add an extra 2. So we could go, not 0.5, we could go, so that'd be 1 times bigger. That'd be 2 times bigger, but we could also go 3. So it'd be 1, 2, 3. And that would still tile together fine. So that's the whole idea behind this. And then you would create a series of pieces so that everything fits together. So for example, you would maybe make a corner piece and you would get rid of your little box here. Ah, come on. Don't be a son of a gun. So this might be like your corner piece, for example. And then you can use that to make all your corners. And then, so everything eventually can be put together in a grid-like fashion. And then later, like I said, you can go and you can maybe add like a crate here, or maybe a lamp, or some sort of light hanging from the ceiling or whatever. And so yeah, that's the basic theory behind modular level design, and I kind of just wanted to explain this to you. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. I'll explain it a bit more clearly. Like I said, this was more theory than anything. But anyways, thanks for watching from the team here at BlenderTech.com. If you enjoyed this video and learned something, please like it and don't forget to subscribe for more Blender, Unity 3D, and programming videos. We now offer hard copies of our videos, so if you'd like a copy to download onto your computer to watch later, let us know and we'll upload it to our server for you to watch later in the media player of your choice. If you dislike this video for some reason, don't just leave. Instead, leave a comment or email the team at info@blendertech.com about what you did or did not like. I actually received an email earlier that said, "Your tips were great, they really helped me out, it was a great video, thanks." I received that in my email, so thanks for the comments, guys. And we also take requests for tutorials, so let us know what you'd like to see, what kind of tutorials you want, or just what you want more content of. So see you next time, and don't forget to remember, create your way.